that delayed game against the Dolphins last week in Miami, with the weather delay, and they ended up losing that game. And I kind of like the Titans coming into this year, but I'm starting to wonder why I like them so much, especially now with Marcus Mariota. You don't know if he's going to play in this game, and to me, Deshaun Watson kind of had kind of an up and down return after his ACL injury last year. I expect him to play better. He was going against New England and the mystique that New England has. And, they played him within a touchdown. So they played pretty decent on the road. And now, here they are again on the road in Tennessee. And, I just think that they will find a way to get this done. I'm not sure Tennessee has as many pieces as I thought they might have. And then if you throw in Mariota's availability, you don't know how that elbow is going to respond, if he's going to play. If he plays, how effective it'll be. And I just think Houston will find a way. Deshaun Watson will play better, and that Houston defense is very good. And I just think Houston will win this game.
Well, certainly we'll see what happens. Mo, what are your thoughts? Houston, Tennessee, obviously, I think Tennessee has got to be one of those handful of teams that going into week 3 have got to be very, very worried about their team this year.
Well, I think, like Ed said, I think it comes down to defense in this football game, because if you don't have Marcus Mariota, you're going to rely a lot on the running game, I believe, if you're Tennessee. And Deshaun Watson, he's a young kid coming back from a pretty major injury. It's not like we're seeing Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers come back from this injury and have had all this experience. I think you saw some tentativeness from Deshaun Watson. I think, like Ed said, he plays better this week. I think Houston wins the football game, and I like the defense a little bit more of the Texans than I do the Titans, which makes me pick the Texans this week.
Ed, we always like to poke fun at the Browns. We talked a little bit earlier about the Browns and the Steelers ending their losing streak with a tie. I guess only the Cleveland Browns could do that. Certainly, they rallied in regulation. The Pittsburgh Steelers played like crap. They were very sloppy. It was in the weather. A lot of factors played to that tie. Good job for the Browns on breaking their losing streak, but now they're at New Orleans. It gets real from here.
Yeah, you're right. And like I said earlier, I think the Saints are going to be smarting after that egg they laid against the Bucs in front of their home fans. They gave up 48 points. That defense, they scored 40 points and they still lost. So I just think it's a tough spot for Cleveland. I do like the way Cleveland. I like Josh Gordon being back. He looked, he made a nice touchdown catch against the Steelers, and I love Myles Garrett, and Denzel Ward played well, I thought, at corner. So, the Browns are building. They're going to win some games this year. I just don't think in New Orleans is going to be one of them.
Mo, what are your thoughts? The Cleveland Browns at New Orleans. The Saints go marching in this week.
Yeah, I'll tell you the one thing I did like about the Browns last week was being down, by 14 points to a team like Pittsburgh and fighting back, to win that football or to tie that football game. And I do like the defense of the Browns, and it's going to be a big test, I think, for the offensive line of the Saints to keep guys like Myles Garrett out of the backfield. Overall the defense is pretty darn good. And I think we expected New Orleans defense to be better after last year, and we saw Ryan Fitzpatrick put up 48 points or whatever it was on the Saints. I think the Saints win the football game, but maybe not as embarrassing as we might have thought a couple of weeks ago.
Ed, let's talk a little bit about Miami flying north to the Jets. The Jets are at home after that big win against Detroit. Momentum built, but do they have what it takes to beat the Miami Dolphins? I think so. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see, how the Jets respond to winning in such big fashion. In New York City, everybody's going to be patting them on the back, and Sam Darnold's going to be the toast of the town, and it'll be interesting to see how that rookie responds to all the, all these back slaps and congratulations, and everywhere he goes now in New York, like I said, he's the toast of the town. And it'll be interesting to see if he can keep his feet on the ground and keep it out of the clouds. I like the Jets in this game, but I think the Dolphins, to me, they can do some things that can keep the Jets off balance, and there was a lot made that the Jets kind of had some of the hand signals that Matt Stafford was using in that game. And if that's true, we'll see how he does against this, against the Dolphins offense. This is a tough game to call. to me it's a pick'em game. I don't know what the line is. Mo can tell us that, but the Jets being at home, coming off that big win, we'll see how Todd Bowles can keep them kind of focused and not kind of riding on their laurels from game one. I just think Miami will find a way to win this game and bring the Jets down to earth a little bit. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I just think Miami's going to find a way to win.
Mo, what are your thoughts? Big win against the Lions. Obviously, as Mo said, as Ed said, I always get confused. I don't know why. You don't look anything alike. You don't sound alike. You don't sound alike. I always mix the two of you up. Mo, as like Ed said, Sam Darnold is enjoying the life of Riley, if you will, in New York City. Everybody loves the Jets when they're winning. And when you're in New York City, you have to win. So what happens with Miami coming to the Jets?
Well, if Sam Darnold does win this game, just like you talked about earlier when I came on, the people of New York will talk about Sam Darnold being the second coming of Christ because the Jets fans have been waiting for this for a long time. Like Ed said, can Darnold, keep his feet on the ground and not let this get to his head too much? We saw him be resilient last week when he threw a pick six on the first play and came back and put away the Detroit Lions. Miami is a weird team to look at because of that game last week. That's hard for any team when you've got so many, couple hour delays. It's hard to really see what the Dolphins have. I think the Dolphins getting rid of Jarvis Landry is a huge deficit for them because you get rid of a guy who has a lot of swagger, a big play guy. I think the Jets can win this one at home. Vegas sees it as a pick 'em as well, so the Jets are given 3 points. So you usually get the 3-point bump when you're at home. If I was betting this game, which I'm not because I don't feel strongly one way or the other about it, I would probably take the Jets and give the 3, but I think it's a close game, and like Ed said, it's a pick 'em game.
We'll stay with you, Mo. We already talked and broke down the game against the Eagles and the Buccaneers, but certainly what are your thoughts? Ryan Fitzpatrick comes in. Jameson Winston might be losing his job. We may have found a new quarterback stud down there in Tampa Bay. The Bucs have a very solid quarterback now. What are your thoughts against the Eagles tomorrow?
Well, Ryan Fitzpatrick has become a team killer over the years because he'll come out and have an amazing season in a role where he's filling in or as a backup or as a bridge quarterback, and then a team's like, well, God, maybe we should keep him another year, and then things fall apart. I think Tampa Bay has given up on Jameis Winston. I think they've been looking for a reason to get rid of him, honestly. But, does Fitzpatrick have the same type of game again 2 games in a row? It's hard to say because everything with him is so up and down. Coming in to play the Eagles, I wouldn't want to be in that position if I'm Ryan Fitzpatrick at this point. I like the defense of the Eagles. I think that now that the first home game after Super Bowl is over, all the festivities are over, I look for the Philadelphia Eagles to get back to business. I think they win the football game, and I think we see a little bit of a letdown from Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Bucs this week.
Ed, real quickly again on the Buccaneers and the Eagles. Clearly the Dollar Shave Club has someone they need to endorse there with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Maybe it all is in the beard. Maybe it's the magic of the beard, as they say with the movie Santa Claus. But what are your thoughts as far as wins, losses, and any other thoughts that you'd like to add to this game tomorrow?
Yeah, Nick Foles is 2-0 against the Bucs. Both wins came in Tampa. He plays well. I like the matchup that he has against this, secondary of the Bucs without its 2 starters. And, it's a weird spot for the Eagles. They haven't played a 1 o'clock football game probably since last December. They had the run in the playoffs where they played all those oddball times, and then the preseason, all those kickoffs are in the evening, and they opened up on a Thursday night. So, they haven't played a 1 o'clock football. That's going to change their pregame preparation a little bit. I don't think it's a big deal. I think the Eagles will find a way to win this. I think it's going to be, maybe a little closer, but I think the Eagles will find a way to score, kind of an insurance touchdown late, and they probably win something along the lines of like 31-17.
So let's talk a little bit about the big game tomorrow, especially if you're a Colts fan. They're on the road. We talked a little bit about this a lot in the first half hour with Matt-Hicks. They're on the road. It's going to be nasty weather as Hurricane Florence makes its way through D.C. Obviously, it's going to be a close game. We are without Costanzo. Sorry, I can't speak today. And you got to look at a guy who still has some gas in the tank, and that's Adrian Peterson. The Colts have to stop the run. They have to control the turnovers. I think the battle of the turnovers won that game last week. The Colts can't afford to start yet again at 0-2. It doesn't look good, but I tell you what, I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Colts do win 17-13, but it is going to be a difficult, long game with the Colts. What are your thoughts, Ed? The Redskins and the Colts.
So you're picking the Colts to win, you said 17-13?
I am, just because I'm a Colts fan, I have to do that.
Yeah, that's a brave pick. Well, I'd like to see, and the Colts may have to do this, but I'd like to see them run the ball a little bit more. I think they only had 22 runs last week. I know they kind of fell behind late, but they were holding a 13-point lead in that game against the Bengals, and then their defense didn't kind of step up to keep that lead. They gave up, I think, the two-game winning or two touchdown drives after they went up by 23-10. But Andrew Luck throwing the ball 53 times in a game is not the recipe for success. You only jeopardize your quarterback. Maybe the weather conditions will force them to run the ball a little bit more, but that's how they're going to have to win this game. Is they're going to have to run the football. It'd be nice if they had Le'Veon Bell. I know you talked about that with Matt-Hicks. They need that type of running back. They don't really have that type of person, and that's probably what Frank Reich sees, and that's why maybe he isn't running the ball. He's putting the ball in the hands of his best player, Andrew Luck, but at what cost, potentially? And on the other side of the ball, they have to stop Adrian Peterson. I was really surprised what Peterson had left, how effective he was. And, we could be witnessing a rebirth of Adrian Peterson in Washington. And if so, the Redskins are going to be in this race in the NFC East to the very end.
Well, absolutely. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, we look at miles on the tires, if you will. And maybe we get that number from the years that he's been in the league compared to how old he is. But keep in mind, there was at least 2 or 3 years that he didn't play. There was a lot of reasons why he didn't play. But either which way, he still may have a couple, 3 years left in his tank. And if you're right, Ed, you're right. The Redskins will have a certainly solid running back. Mo, what are your thoughts? The Colts and the Redskins, the Colts on the road.
Well, being a Colts fan, I'm able to separate that from my journalistic view, I think. I agree with Ed, this game being sloppy. I think it's going to come down to the running game. It surprises me that the Colts didn't go out in the offseason, get themselves a better running back. With the sloppy mess, I think comes down to the running game, and I think that Washington does have the better running game in this football game. Andrew Luck throwing the ball that many times is definitely not going to be a recipe for success when it comes down to this nasty weather. I don't like the defense of the Colts. I've said that a few times. I think the defense is terrible. I don't think Andrew Luck has enough weapons to outscore teams enough. I think this is going to be a loss for the Colts in Washington.
Mo, we'll stay with you just because we got to talk about Marcus Peters and his junk just yet again. First of all, what are your thoughts about his obscene celebration? The NFL fining him $13,000, and of course they go. They are at home against the Arizona Cardinals, which also are struggling. So, 2 thoughts: Marcus Peters, touchdown celebration, and the game against the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, Marcus and his Peters got himself in trouble this week. But when it comes down to it, a guy's got to think more when it comes to these touchdown celebrations. I'm glad the NFL has let them back to do more things, but let's get it together. The Cardinals, they looked terrible last week as well. It'll be interesting to see how long that they go with Sam Bradford until maybe it's Josh Rosen time. I think the Cardinals don't show up again this week, and I think it's going to wind up being an easy win, and maybe we see another crazy touchdown celebration from Marcus Peters.
Well, hopefully it won't be one that cost him $13,000. Ed, what are your thoughts? The Cardinals at the Rams.
Yeah, I like what you did there, Mo. Marcus and his Peters. That was a nice little. It was clever. Yeah, I don't like Arizona in any way, shape, or form in this game. I think the Rams are going to blow them out. Rams are my pick to win the Super Bowl this year, and they went into Oakland and John Gruden's much anticipated debut and won that game. They're at home. There's a whole lot of home field advantage in that cavern, that barn that they play in, but I just don't think the Cardinals are any good. Josh Rosen era has to start soon, I would think, but I think the Rams can name their score in this one.
We got just a couple more games to get through. Real quickly, before we wrap it up, put